So your experience of life is what your internal state is representative of. Whatever your internal state sees, that is what your experience of life will be. Now, this is pretty straightforward. This is pretty logical. The way that you expect your life to be, the way that you see it as, is what it's going to be. If you expect yourself to be good with money, then you will be good with money. If you expect money to be easy, if you expect it to be a normality, then money will be a normality. So as long as you see something to be normal, then that's just what it's going to be. If you see money as a normal thing and you feel like you don't have a lot of struggles with money, then money is going to be not a struggle. Now, I'm not saying you're going to, with this thought, you're going to become rich, you're going to become a multimillionaire. I can get into that later. But it just means that you're going to experience a normal version of money. You're not going to have a struggle with money. And that is why there's a lot of people that were born into, financial states that money was hard to come by. They have a hard time getting out of that because their perception of money is that it's hard to come by. How do you break out of that? You just need to see that it's possible to break out of that. You need to realign your inner state of being with that money is easy to come by. And this can be applied to anything. Your experience of anything is what you're going to experience it as, right? So take a relationship, for example. If you are in a relationship and you see that your relationship is in conflict, then you are going to talk to the side of that person that is conflicting. If you see a person to be angry, if you see someone as a bad person, then you're going to talk to the side of them that's a bad person. You're going to create unpleasant experiences for yourself. Now, whenever it says in the Bible to be close to God, to be like, a lot of people say be like Jesus. A lot of people don't understand what that truly means. It means to have no weight in your heart towards anything. It means to have a clean slate towards all things, to not judge, to not see something as bad, to not see something as negative. Because if you see something as negative, then you're going to experience the negative side of that thing. And you got to realize whenever you become one with God, all things are possible. That is what it means to be close to Jesus. That's what it means to be close to God. You realize that all things are possible and that there's nothing that's outside of your state of being that you can't attain. There's nothing outside of your state of being that you can't attain. The weight that you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. And this is why detachment is so important in the process. We need to practice detachment, because if we try to idolize a state of being, if we're trying to get something, if we're trying to get a person, if we're trying to get money, if we're trying to get anything, whatever it may be, that thing is going to be harder to come by as long as you are idolizing it, as long as you are making it abnormal. Whatever you make abnormal, you make it abnormal, and it becomes hard to come by, and it becomes a weird thing that you see in your head that you just can't mentally grasp. You can't mentally claim it because you see it as an abnormal thing. So you need to make these things normal. You need to do meditative practices where you put yourself into the state of being that you want yourself to be in. And the more you are able to keep yourself in that state of being, the more you will shift your reality into that state of being. It's not necessarily about doing a bunch of, people make this so hard, but really it doesn't have to be hard. I've seen people go from living in the hood to becoming rich overnight. It's because they simply believe that it's possible. Because all the things that they were told growing up, they didn't choose to abide by those standards. They didn't choose to. They didn't choose to abide, or at least they did. And then at some point in time, they realized, okay, I don't need to abide by these standards anymore. I'm able to create something out of myself that other people don't see as being as possible. And that's how you manifest your reality. You mentally shift yourself into a state of being that you want yourself to be in. So detachment's very important, because if you idolize a goal, if you idolize something, if you put something on a pedestal, then that's just what you're doing. You're putting it on a pedestal. Because a lot of the time what people do, we chase and we push away. Whatever we chase, we're going to inevitably push away. Because if you try to force something, you are reaffirming to your subconscious that you are lacking it. And whatever you try to force, you're just going to tell yourself that you're lacking it. So you need to remind yourself that you're living in an abundant state. Now, this is going to take about, of practice, it's going to take about 1 to 2 to 3 months of practice if you are consistent every single day. But the problem is that a lot of people aren't consistent. They just do, they just like meditate one time a day, or they just do, watch YouTube videos like this explaining how to do it, but they don't actually put it into practice. This is going to take about 3 months to achieve whatever it is that you want. Because for me, I was living in a struggle mindset with money for the longest time. I had a job and it was in sales, and I put every single sale on a pedestal. And because I was putting every single sale on a pedestal, I was pushing away my customers unconsciously. I was pushing away all of the things that I needed to do unconsciously. And that's whenever I learned about detachment. I learned about not forcing anything. I was just like, okay, whatever happens, happens, fuck it. And that's this, in a sense, you need to get there to the point where you're able to just say, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. Because whenever you say, fuck it, whatever happens, happens, you become good with it and good without it. And your subconscious and your unconscious already know what exactly it is that you want. So whenever you're able to say, fuck it, whatever happens, happens, then you just shift into that reality. Because you're done pedestalizing. You're done saying, like, this is so much better than me, that it's outside of me. Because whenever you say something is better than you, whenever you think something is better than you, you're putting it outside of you. It's like anything that we make abnormal, anything that we make weird is going to be abnormal. It's going to be weird. Anything that you make normal, it's going to be normal. Anything that you make a positive thing in your existence, it's going to be a positive thing in your existence. That's just how it works, because your experience of things is how you're going to experience it at the end of the day. And whenever you have doubts, whenever you have worries, fears, stressors, you got to realize that these are the things of the old identity trying to hold you back. As you are shifting into your next reality, you are going to face fears, worries, doubts, and these are things from your old reality trying to say, no, you can't do that. You're not able to do that. It's just outside of you. And that's your old reality talking. So whenever you feel those stressors, doubts, fears, worries, it should be a sign to you that you are shifting into the right direction. And if you're shifting into the right direction, then you got it covered. I mean, it should be a positive indicator that you're moving in the right direction, obviously. Because you wouldn't have doubts, fears, or worries if you were staying comfortable. If you were comfortable with where you were, you would not have any doubts, fears, or worries. Every single belief that you have is a living entity. It's a spiritual entity that wants to stay alive, and it wants to be manifested into this reality. That's why we have like possessions, exorcisms, demons, all that stuff, because the emotions, the beliefs, and the conviction of those things, the emotional power, the emotional charge behind those things, they want to be manifested into the physical. They want to be brought out into the physical. Especially demons, especially fears and worries, they want to be brought out because they're a gross form of concept. And any gross form of concept lives naturally in the physical world. That's why the physical world is so low energy. That's why we have so many bad people. That's why we have so many people suffering, because naturally the physical world is of low energy. And so is the astral. The astral can be very low energy as well. But once you get up to those higher planes of existence, like the spiritual and the upper mental planes, everything becomes very light. Everything becomes very lighthearted. Everything is very abundant there, because you don't have all these negative beliefs. You don't have all these negative weights holding you down, saying that you are not this, you're not worthy of this, you're not capable of doing that. And a lot of the time, that's exactly what we listen to. We just listen to the things that tell us we're not capable, we're not worthy. Especially when it comes to money, we have so many fears and things telling us that we are not deserving of money, because we have idolized other people who have a lot of money. Therefore, if we idolize someone, like, a status of money, then we automatically put ourselves below that. So you need to learn how to see everyone as equal. You need to learn how to see all realities as equal, because truly there is no such thing as a reality that is better than yours. There's no such thing. It is only what you make it out to be. It is only human emotion that makes something better than themselves. And whenever you make something better than yourself, guess what you're doing? You are putting that reality above you. And if you're putting a reality above you, how are you going to attain that? You can't. So part of this whole process is to learn how to surrender. Surrender all of your fears, surrender all of your worries, surrender all of your doubts. Surrender them to God, surrender them to a higher power, surrender them to something that is better than you, something that you know is better than you. Don't surrender them to like a person or something, but because like that's what I'm saying. We say that people are better than us when they're not. Surrender them to God. So God is the only thing that can physically and mentally and spiritually encapsulate more than what we can encapsulate. God is the only thing that is able to do that. You are limitless in yourself, but compared to God, God has built these frameworks of how the universe works, and we live within the all. We live within the all. We live within that sense of God. And because we live within that sense of God, we are able to create a reality that is on any frequency within the sense of God. Because you got to realize God is everything. The all is infinite. There's a divine creative spirit that flows through all things. And whenever you realize the divine creative spirit flows through all things, including you, you're able to shift your reality into anything that you want just because you understand that. Ask and you shall receive, as it says in the Bible. If you ask for something, quiet the noise in your brain and wait. Just expect it to happen, then it will happen. Because all things are equal. All things are capable of your grasp. The only thing that holds you back from it being capable is your subconscious beliefs that you are not capable. That is simply the only thing that holds you back. Whenever I was making this account, whenever I was pursuing this business, I had to realize a sense of detachment. I had to realize a sense of not caring about the outcome, because whenever I cared too much about the outcome, I put the outcome above me. I put the outcome to a point that it felt like it was ahead of me. But then I literally just overpowered that with emotional conviction. And all subconscious beliefs are able to be overpowered with conviction. They're all able to be overpowered with emotional conviction, because the mind is what creates the rules. And if the mind is what is creating the rules, then you're able to make a rule that overpowers the current rules that you have set yourself up to believe. Because from a young age, we have been told things that we decided to claim to be true. And anything that we decide to be claimed, that we claim to be true, that is what we're going to live by. That belief is what we're going to live by. And if we live by that belief, then that's exactly what's going to hold us back. We need to learn how to not have any beliefs. That is the goal. That is what we are doing. We need to not think that anything is above us. There is no such thing as a reality that's better than yours. There is no such thing as a life that's better than yours. And whenever you actually understand that, you are capable of doing anything because you don't put anything above you. And as I said, whenever you don't put anything above you, you're able to live exactly how you want. Part of it is being able to sit with yourself without beating yourself up. Because I know that so many people that talk to me, they have this thing where they get mad at themselves for feeling a certain way. But that is the last thing that you want to do. If you get mad at yourself for feeling a certain way, then all you're going to do is reaffirm that feeling that you have. You're going to reaffirm to yourself that you have that feeling. You're just going to label it in your subconscious that you are just that. Fighting yourself over a certain feeling will only reinforce that feeling. What you need to learn to do is accept that feeling. You need to learn how to accept and redirect that feeling. You can redirect that energy into something else, into something more productive, into something more creative, or you could also, that's what I do a lot of the time. I just accept and redirect. But at the end of the day, the best thing and ultimately what you want to do is accept it. You want to accept the feelings that you have within yourself, because as soon as you accept them, you're able to transmute it into something better. But if you keep on denying and denying and denying your emotion, then what does denial actually do? Denial tells the subconscious that you are exactly what you don't want to be. That's exactly what it does. Denial will tell the subconscious that you are what you don't want to be. And that's where emotional conviction comes in. That's where acceptance comes in. Conviction that you are able to overpower that. Conviction that you're able to get through that. And it takes conviction and belief every single day. That's what it takes. until you get to that breaking point where you just don't give a fuck anymore. And then once you learn how to just not give a fuck, that's what happened to me. I learned how to not give a fuck, and then everything that I wanted ever happened. Almost as if it was just overnight. But it's a process, and you need to learn how to go through that process. And sometimes it's not a process, though. Sometimes people can get this stuff overnight, and it's totally possible to get this stuff overnight. But really, one great thing that I've heard is that manifestation is a shift internally where you are no longer emotionally dependent on an external reality. Because let's say that you do have a lot of money. You're not emotionally dependent on money, are you? You're not emotionally dependent on if you lose $1,000 if you have a lot of money. If you just have anything that it may be, once you manifest something, manifestation comes from within. Manifestation isn't a physical creation. That is what a lot of people try to do. They try to force reality. They try to create reality to be the thing that they want it to be. But manifestation happens internally. And as I just said, manifestation happens internally whenever you are no longer emotionally dependent on an external change. So why would you be trying to change the reality around you if what it takes is your mental frameworks? It takes your mentality. It takes the mental plane. Because you manifest whenever you are not emotionally dependent on that thing. Whenever you're not emotionally dependent on making a sale, you manifest a sale. Whenever you're not emotionally dependent on finding a love, you find a love. Whenever you are not emotionally dependent on money, you find money. You need to learn how to put yourself into this no-mind state, into this state of simple trust and conviction. Just learn how to put yourself into the state of trust and conviction. It's like walking with serene confidence. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take effort. As I said earlier, your subconscious already knows exactly what you want. You just need to clear the noise, clear all of those doubts, and walk with trust. Walk with that emotional conviction that you have within you. Walk with no doubts in your mind. Walk with serene confidence. That is truly all it takes. Anyway, hope this helps.